Hey guys, I'm actually doing a motor in a Saturn view. I'm doing some of this at night just so I can show you some stuff underneath it. But I bought a 2008, 81,000 miles on it. Unfortunately, I happened to wind up with a bad engine. My mechanic, instead of towing it home from the auction, drove it home and it was overheating, and something happened to the number 2. I guess that's the number 2. Where that piston makes an awful noise. It doesn't even go up and down anymore. So I'm taking out the motor. It's all pretty straightforward. Just unconnecting stuff. I think this whole wire loom is going to come out with the motor. So far that's the plan. Unfortunately, I had to undo my AC, so I got to get my AC recharged. I bought a new motor. That is the new engine there, with 91,000 miles on it, according to the wrecking yard. I've got this covered up because, unfortunately, this is off of a Saturn Aura, which is a sedan, and the intake manifolds are different. That's caused me some concern, but actually it just comes right off. It actually sits right on top of these little pins, that one and that one. And the other thing that was a surprise is the fuel rail's different, so it does take you a few more minutes to fiddle with it. The fuel rail on the Aura goes almost like completely vertical, where this fuel rail, because I'm keeping this, kind of sits alongside the motor this way, and points towards the firewall. So I just had to pop it out, and basically I'm using the same fuel rail. I'm not sure if you can see in my crappy light, but this is the intake manifold. Oh my god, this thing's heavy. Anyway, that's the intake manifold to my view, and this is the intake manifold to the Aura. You'll notice the little intake here, it points to the passenger side. The Aura points to the driver's side fender well, which is kind of cool. Yes, that is actually 1962 radio flyer. I use it for the wrecking yard. Aside from that, that's the fuel rail to the Aura. That's what I meant about it going vertical, which is kind of weird. But I'm not going to use it anyway because I'm not putting this into an Aura. Some of the tips my other mechanic told me. This is the hose mechanism and the thermostat housing on the transmission side of things. So instead of trying to get all those hoses off, I just undid the 10 millimeters and popped it off. But what I really wanted to show you is the fun part underneath. You of course have to take the starter off to get to the bolts that attach the flywheel to the torque converter. Otherwise, this motor's not going to come out because the flywheel is attached to the engine. So that's my last of the 4. They're 18 millimeters. That's the exciting part, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the video. Is you got to get some nice half-inch grade, nice long sockets that are half-inch, and it makes life a lot easier. You can get everything started with the half-inch, but I'm using this bad boy, and it's just a cheapy Harbor Freight. You don't really need snap-on quality stuff for this type of work, but anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm going to bust it loose, and then I'm going to work it out with an extension, a little small extension on the end of that long socket. I'm not going to drop the bolt down into the transmission area. I don't know. It's probably just going to fall right back out when I take it apart. But we're trying to think of what else I could tell you guys. There's some stuff obviously on the back. A little heat shield that covers up a couple of the sensors. I don't know if I can get back here and show you guys that. Looks like some stuff's melted a little bit too, which kind of sucked, but there's a little heat shield. You can see one of the sensors there, one of the sensors there, and there's a little heat shield that covers it up. I think the only bolt that keeps the motor mount attached is just a long 15 that kind of goes through. It's kind of hard to see, but anyway, it's basically just a long 15 that goes through here and attaches. There's a couple of 10 millimeters that attach this brace for the axle, but you'll be able to see all the stuff that's attached to the motor. And then you can grab the bottom bolts. These are the 15s. That one I've got loose on the very bottom, just to give me a little security. And then there's one you can see missing there. That's going to come off. Actually, that's going to stay with the transmission. Actually, no, it's going to come off with the motor, so I'm not going to take that off till later. And there's another one right there. And then everything else is up the top. So I've got it neutral. That's the only way to get the flywheel to turn. This is a 19 out here. This really sucks, but anyway, you can see my little wrench here, and it doesn't matter if you push or pull. I'm pulling because it makes it a lot easier. And as I pull down, you'll be able to see, well, I'm not going to do it now, but the flywheel turns and it lines up the bolts, so you could take those 4 18 millimeter ones out, and I think that should be good. I got to go back upstairs and undo the rest of whatever I think's attached, and tie the seat belt, what's left of it, around the front exhaust manifold and the back manifold, and I'm going to pull this baby out. So that's it for now, you guys. Let me go back up, and because I've got the battery out, I basically just attached it to the fuse box, the positive end there, and then just a ground over there. That's enough to turn the key on and get this thing into neutral, because I actually don't know if this 2008 View has a shift lock where you can actually put it in neutral. I tried to look that up on YouTube and nobody's made a video of it yet. So just typical hoses. And then the last thing I'll do is take this motor mount off, support the motor from underneath with a jack, and then start to lift this thing out. It is helpful to look, if you're going to get another motor. I paid $1,400 for one, unfortunately, but if you're going to get another motor, that helps you figure out where all of the little connectors go, because there's like 4 connectors in the back, there's 4 connectors in the front. You just don't want to bust up that stuff. So power steering, it just comes off, a couple of little invisible bolts behind it, and that's about it. I'm just rambling and I'm doing a shitty nighttime video, but the only thing I wanted to tell you guys about was those bolts for the flywheel and the difference in engines. If you do buy a motor, don't be alarmed if you get one from a car, because all you need to do is just change the fuel rail, and hopefully not the fuel injectors because it's the same motor, but fuel rail and the intake manifold, and then you get to keep the rest of your air filter and all that stuff. Alright, I'll talk to you tomorrow.